It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down on the nightstand because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it. Your mind is doing that thing again, replaying a conversation from 6 years ago for no reason at all. You feel broken. You feel like something is wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger than a malfunction. You are not failing at sleep. You are remembering it. For most of human history, nobody slept the way you're expected to now. 8 hours, straight through, lights off, one continuous block. That idea is young. It's barely a few centuries old. Before electric light existed, humans slept in two separate pieces, with a stretch of quiet wakefulness sitting right in the middle of the night. Historian Roger Ekirch spent over a decade digging through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. He found hundreds of casual references to something called first sleep and second sleep. People wrote about waking in the dead of night, and it wasn't described as insomnia. It was described as normal. A person might pray during that gap, talk quietly with a spouse, tend a fire, think, then drift back down into a second sleep until dawn. Your ancestors weren't lying awake fighting their own biology. They were living inside it. So what changed? Light changed. Specifically, cheap, controllable, artificial light. Gas lamps, then electric bulbs, pushed bedtime later and later, and compressed two natural sleep phases into one forced block. Society rewarded people who could sleep straight through, because factories didn't care what your circadian rhythm wanted. They cared what time the whistle blew, but your body never got the memo. Sleep researcher Jerome Siegel wanted to know if this two-phase pattern was just a European quirk, or something deeper. So he studied 3 modern hunter-gatherer and pre-industrial societies that had almost no exposure to artificial light: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia. No electricity, no screens, no 9 to 5. Here's the twist. These groups didn't show the classic two-phase, first sleep, second sleep pattern Ekirch found in old European records. Instead, Siegel discovered something else entirely. They fell asleep hours after sunset, not immediately at dark. They woke naturally before sunrise, and they almost never napped. In other words, the ancient pattern wasn't one fixed rulebook. It was flexible, adaptive, tuned to temperature, to light, to the rhythms of a specific environment. What stayed consistent across every group Siegel studied wasn't the schedule. It was the sensitivity. Body temperature dropped, then sleep began. Body temperature rose slightly before dawn. Then people woke, often before the sun was even up. Your ancestors weren't obsessing over hitting 8 hours. They were reading their own bodies like instruments. Now think about your 3 a.m. Your body temperature dips in the second half of the night. That's not an accident. That's the same ancient mechanism Siegel measured in the Kalahari and the Bolivian rainforest, still quietly running inside you, thousands of years later, in an apartment with blackout curtains and a white noise machine. You didn't malfunction. Your internal thermostat did exactly what it evolved to do. The problem is everything around it changed. Anthropologist Carol Worthman took this even further. She studied sleep across dozens of traditional societies and found something that would sound insane to a modern parent. Children in many of these cultures slept in shared spaces, surrounded by ambient noise, firelight, conversation, and constant low-level activity. Not silence, not total darkness, not a sealed, quiet room. Worthman's research suggested that the modern obsession with a perfectly dark, perfectly silent, perfectly solitary bedroom might be working against biology that actually evolved around gentle background stimulation. Total sensory deprivation at night is a very recent invention. For most of human history, sleep happened in the middle of the tribe, not isolated from it. So why does modern silence sometimes feel worse than helpful? Because your nervous system may still be listening for the low hum of other people nearby. Not danger, just presence. A held-over instinct from a time when sleeping alone in the dark, unwatched, actually was dangerous. This is where it gets stranger. Harvard sleep and circadian researcher Charles Czeisler has spent decades studying what artificial light actually does to your internal clock. His research found that even brief exposure to blue-spectrum light in the evening can delay your body's release of melatonin by hours, not minutes. Your ancestors' evening light source was firelight, orange, dim, low and blue wavelengths. Yours is a phone screen, blasting the exact wavelength your brain interprets as high noon.